Welcome and thank you for joining us. I am Mike Jeffries, the play-by-play voice here at Barrie Wrestling, and this is Getting to Know, where we get to know a little bit more about the wrestlers and talent that make Barrie Wrestling so great. And today I'm being joined by Mikey Jenkins. Mikey, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, first things first, where are you from and how long have you been wrestling?
So I was born out of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and lived there for the younger parts of my life. It wasn't until I was 8 years old when I moved to Guelph, where I still live to this day. For how long I've been wrestling for, I started when I was 17 years old. And that was because, I loved wrestling all my life. Everybody does. But it wasn't until I was 17 when I went to my first WWE live event. And that was the very moment I realized the energy, the attention to the fans that I love so much about wrestling that made me want to start doing this. So I found crossbody, and that's when I knew I needed to do it.
And how old are you now?
22.
How long did it take you to grow that beard?
I've been growing it since 15 years old.
I was going to say, when I shave, it takes like a month for it to come back, so I'm 38, so I'm a little bit jealous of you right now.
Don't worry. If I shave it off, it'll grow back in a month.
Okay, all right. I'll forgive you for that. And what brought you to Barrie Wrestling initially?
So initially, I was asked by Old School himself to be in the Youth Ontario Cup. That's when I was in the it was supposed to be a 5-way scramble match, which ended up being a 4-way scramble. And it was against DeLuca, Nova, and Tornado. Exactly. And that's kind of where it started, but it wasn't until the 6-way tag match where I really got my footing here in Barrie Wrestling and got noticed for my enthusiasm.
And we'll talk about that later. I got a question for you there. But when you came back in September, so it was back to school 8, what were your first impressions of Barrie Wrestling, of the audience, of everything here? What were your what was the first thoughts for that?
I loved everything about it. The fans, you can give them all the energy, the attention that I was talking about, and they will give you it back. They are not afraid to show you just what their feelings are on you, and that's what I love so much about Barrie Wrestling, because I every time I go out, I have the fans' love and their appreciation, and it makes me love doing what I do so much.
Well, yeah, they've taken you very quickly. Now, take a step back to your training. You were trained by Chris, Notorious TID Tidwell, and Ben Ortmans, two beloved figures here in Barrie. What does that mean to you to be a student of theirs? What does that represent?
Oh, that's a good question. When it comes to those two men, they have done a lot for me, and to be one of their students is a real honor. Those two men have done the world for me, and making sure I'm the utmost prepared before coming into the world of professional wrestling. And to get to that point, you have to show the utmost, I guess, dedication. Yeah. You got to show hard work, and you got to give everything 110% in everything you do. And that is what they strive for. That's what they teach you from day one. And those two men are not just my coaches, but I feel very much like they are my father figures. They have done so much outside of wrestling as inside.
And I would not want either of them to tell me they're not mad, they're disappointed. Well, I wouldn't want either one to tell me they're mad either, because...
No. Yeah. No. Notorious TID mad is a scary situation I've seen once in my life, and I don't think I want to see it again.
Him happy is a scary situation. Just his existence is a little bit scary for me.
But he's a sweetheart at the core of his... in his heart, he is a sweetheart, and I love the man to death.
That does not surprise me. Now, you are still fairly new on the scene. For fans who haven't seen a Mikey Jenkins match, what should they expect out of one of your matches?
So when it comes to a Mikey Jenkins match, I want them to take away the energy I bring to the room, because I want them, as soon as they hear my music, I want them to know just what they're getting in prepared for. So I want them to prepare for all the energy in the room to just skyrocket. I want the energy of all the fans that may be on their phones at the moment, and I want them to just have the energy just to stand up and just start yelling their feelings, you know? Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's what I strive for with every time I go out there into a match.
Now, you are a very high energy guy in the ring. Are you outside the ring? Like, are you at the grocery store just like getting people fired up, or?
Honestly, not really. Actually, that's what I love about wrestling. It brings things out in you that you have inside that you just turn up the dial to 11. So usually in my normal day-to-day life, I'm like a 3. But as soon as I hear my music and I hear the fans, that's when I turn it up 11 notches, and I'm ready to go out there with everything I got for them to entertain them.
And actually, it's funny with both your coaches, Ortmans and Tid. My interactions with them is they are quiet, mild-mannered guys outside the ring, very much not so inside the ring.
No.
So that works for you with them. Now, you mentioned your music. What was because to me it sounds like a college fight song is what I get. So was that the inspiration behind it, or was it something your coaches were like, here, use this?
So funny you actually asked that. Throughout my whole training process, I've always had one idea of who I wanted to be. Whenever I thought of myself, of Mikey Jenkins, I've always thought of, well, the high school or the college jock, really. So there was one night in training where there was just Ben and a couple of us, and one student actually asked, why don't we try this music for him? And he put it on, and Ben instantly loved it. See, at first I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't see that being myself, but that's why Ben is the coach and I'm a student learning. Because as soon as I did my first match with that music, I couldn't see anything else. And to this day, I still don't see me coming to any other music except that, because that is the music that gets the blood flowing, gets the energy up in the room, and that's exactly what I want to do in every match.
I've heard, you see interviews with guys in WWE and stuff like that, similar stories. I know The Miz tells a story about, like, first time he heard I Came to Play, he was in his car, and he was like, this is it.
Exactly.
So that's cool. Yeah, when you feel that match, that's perfect. Now, so far in Barrie Wrestling, in your last 2 matches, you have wrestled 4 out of the 5 people that were nominated for Most Hated Wrestler of the Year for last year. So all 3 have top-tier talent in that 6-man tag we talked about. So John Atlas, Clay Wilson, Evan Greenway, and then you challenged heavyweight champ Kyle Boone in your last match. So you've already wrestled 4 out of the 5 most hated people here in Barrie, and you've got a bit of a thing going on with Matt Grant right now, who's also very disliked. So what is it with you and wrestling the most hated people? Do you seek them out, or?
No, that's the thing. I just try and be myself. Now, with what they want to, with how they feel about me, that's a different story. I guess people at that caliber they don't like the energy I bring to the room. They don't like the positivity, the energy, and they want to try and take me down a peg. But sometimes it may not always go my way, but at the end of the day, they're never going to break that spirit of mine.
I have to say, being hated by Clay Wilson and Kyle Boone, I would wear that as a badge of honor. That's just me. Now, I mentioned Matt Grant, who, maybe we've seen some stuff. Maybe that's somebody you'll be in the ring with, depending on how Barrie Wrestling Management sees it. But aside from him, is there anybody else in the locker room that maybe you've watched that you would really like to stand across from in the near future?
That's a good question, because Barrie, that's the one thing I love about Barrie Wrestling. It's got a locker room full of talented people. One of the best locker rooms I've been in Ontario. So that's a hard question, but to narrow it down, I think one would be my tag team partner at Crossbody, Pretty Ricky. I think we have a connection energy-wise. It's hard to match Ricky's charisma, his enthusiasm, his sanity, exactly. And I think if given a chance, if we stepped in the ring together, I think we could captivate an entire room of Barrie fans. And I think a close second would be DeLuca.
Okay.
Someone I faced in my first match, and he's I think he's still making a name here in Barrie Wrestling, just like myself. But the very moment we locked up, I had a connection with him. That's just like, because he is at the same point I am, where we want to try and make our name known, especially here in Barrie Wrestling, such a big promotion. We are hungry, so driven. And I think if you put the two factors like that in one match, I think it could be a good match.
Now, I wanted to ask you, for a choice tag team partner, but I think instead I'm going to throw out a dream match for you. So you mentioned Ricky. So Ricky and Puff are the tag team champs. So Ricky and Puff defending against Mikey Jenkins and Uncle Custom. Mark is right. I'm not saying Sean. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm not a booker here, but I know you have teamed with Uncle Custom, who is here teaming with Tid for his final match. What do you think about that? Maybe team with Uncle Custom in a Barrie Wrestling ring. We haven't seen that from you yet.
You know what? I think that's not a bad idea because, like you said, Custom and I have tagged before, and this is something that I've kind of been having a hard time finding people that match that energy. Of course, Ricky is one of them, but
and he's insane.
And insane, of course, that's the best part. But Custom is another one, close second, that matches that energy for me. So I think, given the chance, I'm not saying anything, Sean, not telling you to run your show. Of course, you do an amazing job. But if you want a good tag team match, I think bringing out Custom Ryan, someone that's got a lot to give still, and myself against your two tag team champions, I think might be a good idea.
Sometimes he leaves the man shed to tag with Mikey Jenkins.
Exactly.
Now, on that, so Tid's final match was here in Barrie Wrestling. It was him and Mark Ryan, Uncle Custom, against a couple of jerks, Tornado and Jake O'Brien. Jake O'Brien? No.
Jake O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
Yes.
Sorry, don't hurt me.
Oh, he's not going to like that.
Came from, don't hurt me. I'm not even going to cut that. But you also wrestled on that show in the six man. What did it mean to you to wrestle on the same show as Tid's final ride after 20 whatever years in the business? What was that like? The emotions of that night?
Oh, sorry. That one's a good question. That's a little emotional. Tid's, as I expressed earlier, Tid's a very influential person to me and very close. And that night, I was going out there with the sole intention of trying to make him proud, because I wanted him not only to get his match and to be satisfied with his match, but I wanted him to leave knowing that he helped create a finished product, a product he can be proud of, a product that he himself can look at the end of the day and be like, I did a good job. And so the emotions for myself was high that night. I needed to succeed. I needed to do the best that I could that night. And
I think you guys did a great job. Like, you did succeed.
Thank you.
I mean, you've been back here for a reason, right? You've been on every show since then, I think.
And for that, I'm grateful because, like I said, Barrie Wrestling's my favorite place to wrestle for.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. So, yeah, as we say, maybe not emotional, but more, looking into the future. We talked about the past. So it's April today. I don't know what day it is. The 14th?
14th? Yeah, I think so.
So by the time you watch this, it'll be later in April. But we're about a third of the way through 2023. At the end of 2023, from when Mikey Jenkins looks back on this year, what is a goal that you have, or what would make you look back on the year and be like, that was a success? And I'm not talking titles or anything, just like, what is something that you would look back on and be like, this was a good year?
That's a good... Oh. I think... Looking back to 2023, I want to wrestle for as many promotions as I can. I want to get my name out there to as many places that I can, and that's why I'm glad I'm you getting this platform, because I want people to know just how ready I am, just how driven I am, the fire that burns inside me. I want everyone to know that I, Mikey Jenkins, am not here to play. I am here to wrestle, and I'm here to entertain every single fan out there that loves professional wrestling. So for that question, like I said, if I could wrestle everywhere, and you know what? If I could wrestle in 4 different companies in this year, let's just start there.
All right.
That would be a good year for myself.
Well, for those of you watching, if you're connected to other companies aside from Barrie Wrestling, first off, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want a young, high-energy guy, book this man. And
thank you.
Speaking of getting your name out there, my final question, where can people find you on social media?
Social media, Instagram would be Mike_Burge, and Twitter would be Mike, I'm pretty sure, Burge PW.
How was that the hardest question?
I don't know.
So Mike, BURGEPW, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. When we post this video, we'll post it on Barrie Wrestling socials. We'll tag you in it.
Thank you.
Follow that link. You'll be able to find him. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Mike Jeffries, Jeffries, PA, all one word. Mikey, from one mic to another, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Love seeing you in the ring. Be sure to check this man out. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Barrie.